Today I'm going to have a look at my footy tips and I'm going to show you who I think is going to win in round 1 of the 2023 AFL season. By the time you're seeing this video, this is the first game day, Thursday the 16th of March 2023. I'm so excited for the footy this year. I know my voice probably doesn't convey that, but I really am looking forward to seeing the very first AFL game. Can't wait. For me, Richmond are going to win. Carlton, they broke the hoodoo last year, but I just don't see them doing it. Richmond are very strong. You can see my ladder prediction. I have moved Richmond up. I did like what I saw in the preseason. I think they're going to win by 22 points. In the next one, I have Geelong to beat Collingwood. I think this is probably the game of the round. This will really test both teams to see where they're at. Geelong obviously coming off the grand final. They're going to be really looking forward to a great start to the year, and they're coming up against a great quality side in Collingwood, who I think will probably finish in the top 4 this year. Either team could win. I would not be surprised if either team win. I think the Collingwood midfield is going to be on display this week, especially with the addition of Tom Mitchell in there. I think it'll be really good. I think Jordan De Goey is missing from Collingwood, so I think that's going to hurt the Pies quite a bit, and I think Geelong will win by probably about 15 points. Now, this next game is at Marvel Stadium, North Melbourne versus West Coast. Don't you just love two bottom side teams? As you can see, they finished second last and last year. Lots of laughs in there. But I think West Coast Eagles have a lot more upside than North Melbourne. Don't worry about my Brave browser making noise. I think West Coast Eagles are a bit better of a side. Tim Kelly is, as everyone says, he's looking the fittest he ever has. I think he will have a great year this year. I think West Coast backline is looking pretty fit and pretty good. I just question their forward line. They probably won't be putting up too many high scores this year, but North Melbourne are in the same boat. If this was at Optus Stadium over in Western Australia, West Coast Eagles would win by quite a bit. I think this is going to be their first test in a very disappointing season, but I have West Coast Eagles winning by 2 goals, 12 points. The next one, this is going to be a massive test for Port Adelaide. This is the first game for them at home. They really should win this if they're going to be a chance to finish in the top 8. I know that's a pretty big call for the first round, but Brisbane Lions are going to be in that top 4, pretty certain. Brisbane Lions, even though they might have some injuries, I haven't actually seen any reports on that, but I think Brisbane Lions are going to be very strong this year. They are used to travelling quite a bit, and I think Brisbane are going to be a very dominant team this year. I think they're going to show Port, even at home, that they will not be a top 8 contender. I think the Brisbane Lions are going to win by 32 points. Now, I was pretty harsh on the Dogs earlier in the year. I don't think they will be a great contender. They may make finals, but it's going to be pretty close. I think their midfield is pretty strong. They have some really good forwards and really good backmen, but I just don't see them competing against the top 8 sides. The top 8 sides traditionally. I think Melbourne are going to be too strong at the MCG. This is going to be a pretty good game as well. I think it's going to be heavily contested footy, probably not high scoring, but I can see Melbourne winning this one. I think Melbourne will win by probably about 18 points. Now, going to Heritage Bank Stadium, Gold Coast versus Sydney Swans. I think these two teams are going to be... It's going to be an interesting round. I think Sydney Swans really have to bounce back after that grand final loss, and I think they're going to do that. I think they will be able to travel up to Gold Coast and beat them. I think they'll probably win by about 20 points. Now, for me, this is probably one of the most interesting games of the round. It's probably not going to be the most entertaining games of the round. But Adelaide have a pretty interesting outfit to see what they're able to do with the likes of Isaac Rankin. GWS have lost quite a few players through the draft and trade period. The Crows will win this one, only because I think their forward line is pretty promising. It looks pretty good. Whether you like Taylor Walker or not, he's a pretty good forward. It'll be one in the midfield here between GWS and Adelaide. I just think Adelaide midfield, even though I think it's Matt Crouch, looks like he might be out. I think between Keys and probably Berry, they'll play pretty well together, And I think they'll get many clearances and a high tackle count against GWS. I can see this a pretty sloppy game. I don't see this being entertaining at all, but I think Adelaide are going to win by about 10 points. In the next one, I can see Hawthorn winning this game against Essendon. I think they'll get off to a great start once they're fully fit. They do have a very young team. Essendon are always very disappointing. If they're going to get off to a good start this year, they have to beat the Hawks. For me, I just don't see it happening. I think Hawks have a pretty good forward line. Watching their pre-season and their intra-club games, I was actually quite impressed with the Hawks, even though they are very young. Fergus Green, he's going to be a player to watch this year. I think he was pretty awesome in both the intra-club and pre-season games. For me, Hawthorn could definitely win this one. It could go either way. I would not be surprised. I don't think this is going to be a very good game to watch. A perfect Sunday afternoon game. And the very last game at Marvel Stadium, St Kilda take on Fremantle. I just think Fremantle are going to be in the top 8. They could push for top 4. I would be pretty impressed if they could make top 4, but I think they're going to finish around that probably 5 to 7 spot somewhere. I think they will just miss out on the 4. I think they are a team that's very used to travelling interstate. St Kilda are pretty pitiful. They don't score much. Their defence is pretty poor. I think Fremantle will come out the gates and will teach St Kilda a lesson. Again, I think they're going to win by quite a bit. I think Fremantle win by about 30 points. And those are my tips for round 1 of the 2023 AFL season. Let's see how I go.